Why do Thai people tie colorful cloth around giant trees? A Thailand Through Eyes sleep story. Chapter 1. The Tree That Wore Clothes. Before I came to Thailand, I believed I already knew what Thailand looked like. I thought of beaches, golden temples, street food stalls glowing beneath neon lights, long-tail boats floating across turquoise water, smiling people, and tropical sunsets. Like many foreigners, I carried an entire country inside my imagination before I ever stepped onto Thai soil. And like many foreigners, I was wrong. Not completely wrong, just incomplete. The Thailand I imagined existed, but it was only a small piece of a much larger story. One afternoon, during my second week in southern Thailand, I was riding in the back seat of a small pickup truck through a quiet countryside road in Phang Nga province. The road curved gently between rubber plantations. The air smelled faintly of rain. Dark green mountains rose in the distance. The driver, a cheerful man named Niran, hummed softly to an old Thai song playing through the radio. I watched the scenery pass slowly outside the window, and then I saw something strange. A giant tree. Its trunk was enormous. Its branches stretched like giant arms across the sky. But that wasn't what caught my attention. Around the trunk was a bright piece of cloth. Actually, several pieces. Red, yellow, blue, wrapped neatly around the tree, almost as if someone had dressed it. As we drove past, I turned my head. Then another tree appeared. It also wore cloth. Then another, and another. By the time we reached the village, I had counted at least 7. Finally, I asked, "Niran, why are the trees wearing clothes?" He laughed, not because it was a silly question, but because it was apparently a question he had heard many times before. "Ah, you noticed. Everyone notices, but nobody understands at first." I smiled. "So tell me." He thought for a moment, then he said something unexpected. "There are many answers. Many answers." That wasn't what I expected. Usually questions have answers. One answer, maybe 2, but many? That made me even more curious. The village where we stopped was small. Only a handful of wooden houses, a tiny temple, a local grocery shop, a few dogs sleeping in the shade, and everywhere, trees. Huge trees. Ancient trees. Trees so large they seemed older than the village itself. Near the temple stood the largest one of all, a massive banyan tree. Its roots twisted across the ground like giant sleeping snakes. Its branches spread outward in every direction, providing shade over half the temple grounds. And wrapped around the trunk was layer upon layer of colorful cloth. Some bright, some faded, some obviously old, some newly tied. The sight fascinated me. I walked closer. The cloth moved gently in the afternoon breeze. For a brief moment, it almost looked alive, like the tree itself was breathing. An elderly monk sweeping leaves nearby noticed my curiosity. He smiled. "You are wondering about the cloth." I nodded. "Yes." He looked at the tree for a long moment. Then he answered, "Come back tomorrow morning. I'll tell you a story." And just like that, the mystery deepened. That evening, rain arrived. Soft, tropical rain. The kind that taps gently on rooftops. The kind that makes the world feel smaller and quieter. I sat on the porch of my guest house listening to the rain. Across the road stood another large tree, and around its trunk, the same colorful cloth, the same mystery. I watched it moving softly beneath the rain, and wondered, what kind of story could possibly explain why an entire country wrapped giant trees in colorful ribbons? I would soon discover that the answer had very little to do with trees, and everything to do with how Thai people see the world. The next morning arrived wrapped in mist. The village woke slowly. Roosters crowed. Motorbikes sputtered to life. The smell of grilled pork and sticky rice drifted through the cool air. I walked to the temple just after sunrise. The monk was already there, sweeping leaves beneath the giant banyan tree. When he saw me, he smiled. "You came back." I said I would. He nodded approvingly. Then he pointed toward the tree. "How old do you think it is?" I looked upward. The trunk alone was wider than some rooms I had slept in. The roots appeared ancient. The branches seemed endless. I have no idea. The monk laughed softly. Neither do we. My grandfather sat beneath this tree, and his grandfather sat beneath this tree. I stared upward again. Suddenly, the tree felt different. Larger, somehow. Not physically. Historically, this tree had witnessed generations. Children becoming grandparents. Villages growing. Roads appearing. Storms passing. Wars ending. Lives unfolding. The monk touched the trunk gently. Sometimes people tie cloth because they want to show respect. Respect, not worship, not fear. Respect. The distinction surprised me. Back home, ancient trees were often admired, photographed, protected, but rarely respected in quite the same way. The monk continued. Some trees become important to a community. They give shade. They become meeting places. They watch over many generations. When people tie cloth around them, it reminds everyone that the tree matters. I looked at the colorful fabric again. Suddenly, it felt less decorative, more symbolic, almost like a memorial or a monument, a visible reminder that this living thing held meaning. The monk smiled, but that is only one answer. Again, only one answer. Apparently, Niran had been right. There were many, far more than I expected, and each answer revealed something deeper about Thailand itself. The morning sunlight filtered through the leaves above us, creating moving patterns across the ground. The colorful cloth glowed softly, and somewhere among the rustling branches, a bird began to sing. I listened, and for the first time, I wondered if perhaps the tree was not the mystery. Perhaps the mystery was the people. Why did they see something special where others saw only wood and leaves? Why did they care enough to wrap cloth around a tree that could never thank them? The answer would come, slowly, like all good stories, and like many things in Thailand, not through explanation, but through experience. Chapter 2. The Spirit Beneath the Branches. That afternoon, the rain returned. Not the dramatic kind of rain that crashes against windows and floods the streets. This was softer, gentler, the kind of tropical rain that seemed to drift from the sky rather than fall from it. The village slowed beneath the gray clouds. Dogs slept beneath wooden houses. Motorcycles disappeared from the roads. Children gathered beneath covered porches. And the giant banyan tree near the temple stood quietly in the mist. The colorful cloth around its trunk looked even brighter against the dark, wet bark. I found myself drawn toward it again, perhaps because I still felt there was more to learn. The monk had told me one answer, respect, but I knew another answer was waiting. That evening, I sat beneath the covered veranda of a small tea shop beside the village road. The owner was an elderly woman named Auntie Mali. She seemed to know everyone. Every passing motorcycle rider greeted her. Every child waved. Every dog wandered comfortably into her shop. She poured me a cup of hot tea and smiled. You are the foreigner, asking about the tree. News traveled quickly in small villages. I laughed. Apparently everyone knows. She nodded. People are happy when visitors become curious. Outside, the rain continued falling softly. For several moments, we simply listened. Then I asked, why do people tie cloth around those trees? Auntie Malise smiled. The simple answer or the old answer? I immediately knew which one I wanted. The old answer. She nodded, then leaned back in her chair and began. When I was a little girl, she said, my grandmother used to tell stories about trees. Not all trees, only certain trees. Very old trees. Very large trees. The rain tapped gently against the roof. Her voice blended with the sound, almost like part of the weather itself. In many Thai communities, she continued, people believed that some ancient trees were home to spirits. I remained silent, listening carefully. In Western culture, spirits often appear in horror stories. Ghosts, hauntings, dark places, fear, but there was no fear in Auntie Mali's voice, only familiarity. Like she was describing neighbors or old friends. Did people fear the spirits? I asked. She shook her head. No, respect is not fear. Those were almost the exact same words the monk had spoken. Respect is not fear. The phrase lingered in my thoughts. Auntie Malay pointed toward the banyan tree visible through the rain. People believed that nature has life. Not only the life we can see, but also something deeper, something unseen. I followed her gaze. The tree stood motionless, ancient, patient, watching. When villagers passed such trees, she continued, they often greeted them respectfully, just as you greet an elder. That idea fascinated me. Back home, nobody greeted trees. Nobody thanked them. Nobody spoke to them. Yet somehow the concept didn't seem strange here. The village itself felt deeply connected to the landscape around it. The mountains, the rivers, the forests, the fields, everything appeared connected, as though nature was not separate from life, but part of it. The rain slowly weakened. Clouds drifted apart. The evening sun emerged briefly beneath the horizon. Golden light spilled across the village. Auntie Melise smiled. My grandmother used to tell me something. What? She looked toward a giant tree, then answered softly. If a tree has protected your grandparents, and protected your parents, and protected you, then perhaps you should show gratitude. The statement was simple, yet surprisingly powerful. Gratitude, not ownership, not control. Gratitude. I realized how differently this perspective viewed nature. Many societies speak about using nature, managing nature, controlling nature, but gratitude suggested something else entirely. A relationship, a partnership, a recognition that human beings receive gifts from the natural world every day. Shade, water, food, air, beauty, and perhaps those gifts deserved acknowledgement. The colorful cloth suddenly made more sense. It wasn't necessarily about the tree needing anything, it was about people remembering something, remembering humility. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Rain returned after dark. The village lights reflected on wet roads. The air smelled of earth and flowers. From my guest house window, I could see the silhouette of the giant banyan tree. The colorful cloth was invisible now, hidden by darkness, but I knew it was there, wrapped around the trunk, moving gently in the wind. I remembered stories from Europe, ancient oak trees, sacred groves, forests connected to myths and legends. Perhaps people everywhere once felt this connection. Perhaps modern life had simply caused many of us to forget. The longer I stayed in Thailand, the more I noticed something. Thai culture often seemed less interested in conquering nature and more interested in living alongside it. Not perfectly, not always, but consistently. There was a sense of coexistence, of balance, and nowhere was that clearer than beneath the branches of old trees. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Mist floated through the village. The world felt hushed, half asleep. I decided to visit the banyan tree once more. The temple grounds were empty. Only birds moved among the branches. The colorful cloth wrapped around the trunk glowed softly in the early morning light. I sat beneath the tree, listening. For several minutes, nothing happened. Just wind, leaves, bird song, the quiet sounds of morning. Then an elderly man appeared carrying a basket of flowers. He nodded politely and sat nearby. After a while, he spoke. Beautiful tree, very beautiful. We sat together in silence. Then I asked him the question I had asked everyone else. Why do people tie cloth around it? He smiled immediately, as though he had been waiting. My father told me something. I laughed. Everyone seems to have a story. He nodded. Of course, the tree is older than all of us. Old things collect stories. That answer might have been the most beautiful so far. Old things collect stories. Perhaps that was exactly what had happened. Generations had added meaning, one layer at a time, just like the colorful cloth itself. Layer upon layer, year after year. Memory after memory. Story after story. The elderly man pointed toward the trunk. Maybe there is a spirit. Maybe there isn't. I waited. Then he shrugged gently. But respect is still a good thing. I smiled, because somehow that felt perfectly Thai. The certainty wasn't important. The kindness was, the humility was, the respect was. Whether spirits existed or not almost seemed secondary. The behavior remained valuable either way. Later that day, I walked through the village again, and once I started noticing them, I realized the trees were everywhere. near schools, near temples, near rice fields, near village entrances, each one slightly different, each one carrying its own history. Some wrapped in bright cloth, others decorated with small offerings, some standing alone, others surrounded by smaller trees, and everywhere people passed them without surprise, without questioning, without explaining, because for them, these trees were simply part of life, part of the landscape, part of the community, part of memory. I began to understand something important. Foreigners often arrive in Thailand looking for extraordinary things, golden temples, exotic food, beautiful islands. But some of the most interesting parts of Thailand are hidden in ordinary moments. A grandmother greeting an old tree, a monk sweeping leaves beneath its branches, a villager tying colorful cloth around its trunk. Small actions, quiet actions, yet actions that reveal an entire worldview. A way of seeing the world that values gratitude over ownership, respect over dominance, connection over separation. That evening, the village gathered for a small community dinner near the temple. Children ran through the grass. Families shared food. Laughter drifted through the warm air. Above everyone towered the giant banyan tree, watching, sheltering, present. As darkness slowly arrived, lanterns illuminated the gathering. The colorful cloth wrapped around the trunk shimmered softly in the light. And for the first time since arriving in Thailand, I stopped asking why. Instead, I simply sat beneath the tree and appreciated it the way everyone else did. Not because I fully understood every belief, not because I shared every tradition, but because I finally understood something deeper. Sometimes cultural practices survive for centuries not because they are explained, but because they help people remember what matters. And perhaps that was the real purpose of the cloth. To remind people to remember respect, to remember gratitude, to remember that human beings are not alone in the world. The night grew quieter. Children returned home. Lanterns flickered. The giant tree stood motionless against the stars, its colorful cloth moving softly in the breeze, like a silent conversation between people and nature, a conversation that had lasted far longer than any living person could remember. And somehow, sitting there beneath those ancient branches, I felt grateful that I had finally begun to hear it. Chapter 3, the day an entire village protected a tree. The rain disappeared during the night. By morning, the sky above the village was clear and bright. Sunlight poured across the rice fields. Drops of water still clung to the leaves of banana trees and bamboo groves. Everything seemed freshly washed. The village moved slowly into another day. Roosters crowed. Cooking fires sent thin streams of smoke into the air. Somewhere nearby, a radio played an old Thai song. I had already spent several days learning about the colorful cloth tied around ancient trees. I had heard stories about respect, stories about gratitude, stories about spirits, and yet I still felt there was another layer waiting beneath the surface. Thailand often seemed that way. Every answer opened the door to another question. That morning, I was walking along a small road near the edge of the village when I met Narn again, the cheerful driver who had first brought me here. He was sitting beneath a large rain tree drinking coffee. When he saw me, he waved. Still thinking about the trees? I laughed. Every day. He nodded knowingly. Good. There is one more story you should hear. I sat beside him. The shade beneath the tree felt wonderfully cool. Above us, hundreds of leaves moved gently in the breeze. Birds hopped between branches. The tree seemed alive with quiet activity. Narin looked upward, then pointed toward the trunk. This tree also wore colorful cloth. Bright red, yellow, blue, wrapped carefully around the bark. You see this tree? I nodded. It's beautiful. It almost disappeared. I stared at him. What do you mean? He took a sip of coffee, then began. Many years ago, before I arrived in Thailand, plans had been made to widen the road passing through the village. The project would make transportation easier, faster, more convenient. The engineers examined the route, the construction teams prepared. Measurements were taken, maps were drawn. Everything looked straightforward, except for one problem. This tree, the enormous rain tree sitting above us. The tree stood directly in the path of the new road. According to the plans, It needed to be removed, cut down, gone. I looked upward again. The idea felt almost impossible. The tree was magnificent. Its branches stretched across half the road. Its roots disappeared deep into the earth. Birds nested among its leaves. Children played beneath its shade. It felt permanent, like something that had always existed. Naring smiled sadly. Many people felt the same. The village had grown around the tree. Generations had rested beneath it. Farmers had eaten lunch beneath its branches. Children had climbed it. Travelers had stopped beneath its shade during hot afternoons. The tree wasn't simply part of the landscape. It was part of the community. And so the villagers became worried, very worried. What happened? I asked. Naren laughed softly. They did something very Thai. I waited. The villagers gathered together, not to fight, not to protest, not to argue. Instead, they came to the tree carrying colorful cloth, bright cloth, sacred cloth. Long pieces of fabric usually associated with respect and ceremony. They wrapped the tree, again and again, layer after layer, until everyone could see that the tree was special, valuable, important, worth protecting. The image fascinated me. I imagined dozens of villagers standing together beneath the giant branches. Children, parents, grandparents, monks, farmers, teachers, all carefully wrapping cloth around the trunk. Not out of anger, but out of love. The tree became more than a tree. It became a symbol, a visible reminder that something mattered. Naren pointed toward the cloth still wrapped around the trunk. Some of that cloth has been replaced many times, but the message remains. And did it work? He smiled. Look above you. I looked up into the enormous canopy. The answer was obvious. Yes, it worked. The road design changed. The tree survived. And decades later, it still stood there, providing shade, providing beauty, providing memories. For several moments, neither of us spoke. The morning breeze moved through the leaves. Sunlight flickered across the ground. A squirrel darted along one of the branches. Life continued peacefully around us. Then a thought occurred to me. Back home, environmental campaigns often used signs, petitions, advertisements, government programs. But here, something different had happened. Culture itself had protected the tree. The villagers hadn't merely argued that the tree was useful. They had reminded everyone that the tree was meaningful. And somehow that felt stronger, more personal, more human. Naren seemed to read my thoughts. When people respect something, they protect it. Simple words, yet remarkably powerful. When people respect something, they protect it. Perhaps that explained why so many ancient trees still existed throughout Thailand. Because they were not viewed merely as natural resources. They were viewed as members of the community, living landmarks, silent witnesses, keepers of memory. That afternoon, I decided to walk further beyond the village. The road wound through rice fields, shimmering beneath the sunlight. Water buffalo stood lazily in shallow ponds. White birds drifted across the sky. Everywhere I looked, nature seemed woven into daily life. Eventually, I reached another enormous tree. This one stood alone beside a small field. Once again, colorful cloth surrounded its trunk. An elderly farmer was working nearby. I greeted him. He smiled warmly, then returned the greeting. After a few minutes of conversation, I pointed toward the tree. May I ask about the cloth? The farmer chuckled. Apparently, my curiosity was becoming predictable. You are not the first foreigner. I won't be the last. He set down his tools, then walked toward the tree. I followed. The bark felt rough beneath my fingertips. The cloth looked weathered by years of sun and rain. The farmer rested his hand against the trunk. My father planted rice here. My grandfather planted rice here. This tree was already old when they were children. I looked upward. The branches spread like a giant umbrella, protecting everything beneath. We rest here during hot days. We meet friends here. We tell stories here. His voice softened. We remember people here. Suddenly, I understood. The tree wasn't merely protecting the field. It was protecting memories. Every generation had added another layer, another story, another moment beneath the shade. No wonder people wrapped cloth around it. How else could you honor something that had quietly served your family for a century? The afternoon slowly drifted toward evening. Golden light spread across the countryside. The farmer returned to his work. I continued walking, and as I walked, I noticed something remarkable. Every large tree seemed connected to human life. One shaded a roadside food stall. Another stood beside a temple. Another protected a village meeting area. Another watched over a pond. None existed in isolation. They were woven into daily routines, part of the rhythm of life, part of the emotional landscape. I realized that many foreigners, including myself, often see trees as background scenery. Beautiful perhaps, useful perhaps, but still background. Yet here, some trees had become characters within the community story, almost like elderly residents who had quietly witnessed everything. The colorful cloth acknowledged that role. It said, "We see you. We remember. You matter." That evening, the village hosted a small gathering beneath the giant banyan tree near the temple. Families arrived carrying food. Children ran through the grass. Elderly villagers shared stories. Monks spoke quietly with visitors. The atmosphere felt peaceful, comfortable, familiar. I sat beneath the branches watching the gathering unfold. Above us, the colorful cloth moved softly in the evening breeze. The sight suddenly felt different from when I first arrived. At the beginning of my journey, I had assumed the cloth represented superstition, something mysterious, something strange. Now I saw something else. Community, memory, respect, belonging. The cloth was not only about what people believed, it was also about what people valued. And perhaps those values had protected countless trees throughout Thailand, not through laws, not through force, but through affection, through cultural memory. Through shared stories passed from one generation to the next, the banyan tree towered above us, ancient, patient, silent, yet somehow deeply present. The villagers laughed together beneath its shade. Children chased one another across the grass. And the tree remained exactly where it had always been, watching, protecting, remembering. As darkness settled over the village, lanterns flickered beneath the branches. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and cooking rice. Crickets began their nightly song. And for the first time since arriving in Thailand, I felt I truly understood one part of the mystery. The cloth wasn't merely decoration. It wasn't merely tradition. It wasn't merely belief. It was a promise between generations. A promise that some things deserve care. A promise that not everything valuable can be measured in money. A promise that old trees, like old stories, should be preserved whenever possible. The colorful cloth moved gently in the night breeze, almost like a quiet heartbeat. And as I watched it flutter beneath the lantern light, I realized something. The villagers had never been protecting the cloth. The cloth had been protecting the tree, and the tree, in return, had been protecting the village for generations. The relationship flowed both ways, quietly, patiently, like so many beautiful things in Thailand. Chapter 4. The monk who explained the three colors. The next morning arrived wrapped in golden light. The rain had completely disappeared. The sky above the village was a brilliant blue. Birds sang from rooftops. Palm leaves shimmered in the sunlight. And somewhere in the distance, a temple bell echoed softly through the still morning air. I woke earlier than usual, perhaps because my time in the village was coming to an end, or perhaps because I felt the story was not yet complete. Over the previous days, I had learned many things. I had learned about respect, about gratitude, about spirits, about communities protecting ancient trees. Yet one question remained. Why three colors? Again and again, I had seen the same combination. Red, yellow, blue. Sometimes other colors appeared as well, but those three seemed especially common. The answer, I suspected, was hidden somewhere within the village. And sure enough, that morning, I found it. Or, rather, it found me. The temple grounds were quiet when I arrived. Only a few villagers had come to make merit before work. The giant banyan tree stood exactly where it always had. Ancient, patient, watching. The colorful cloth around its trunk moved gently in the breeze. The monk I had met earlier was sitting nearby beneath a small wooden pavilion. A book rested on his lap. A cup of tea sat beside him. When he saw me approaching, he smiled. "You still have questions?" I laughed. "Is it that obvious?" He nodded. "The curious ones always return." I sat across from him. For a moment, we simply listened to the morning sounds around us. Leaves rustling, birds singing, the distant hum of a motorcycle passing along the road. Then I asked, "Why those colors?" The monk looked toward the tree, then toward the cloth, and finally back toward me. "That," he said, "is a longer story." I smiled. By now, I had learned that the best answers in Thailand usually began exactly that way. The monk folded his hands comfortably. Then he began, "First, you should know something important. Not every cloth means exactly the same thing." I nodded. That didn't surprise me anymore. Almost every tradition I had encountered in Thailand carried layers of meaning. The monk continued. Different villages, different regions, different families, different reasons, but there are common ideas. He pointed toward one of the cloths wrapped around the banyan tree. Its bright yellow color glowed in the sunlight. Yellow is often associated with Buddhism and respect. I listened carefully. The monk explained that saffron and golden yellow tones have long been connected to Buddhist traditions in Thailand. Monks' robes, temple ceremonies, religious celebrations. Over generations, yellow had become a color many people associated with reverence and goodness. When villagers tie yellow cloth around a tree, he explained, it can symbolize respect. Respect again. That word continued appearing throughout every explanation, almost as if it sat at the center of everything. The monk then pointed toward a strip of red cloth, bright and vivid against the dark bark. "And red?" I asked. He smiled. "Red often represents life, energy, protection, strength." The breeze moved softly through the branches overhead. The red cloth fluttered gently. For a moment, it almost looked like a living flame. The monk continued. In many cultures, red is considered a powerful color. Thailand was no exception. Festivals, ceremonies, celebrations, protective symbols. Red appeared everywhere. It represented vitality, the force of life itself. Looking at the enormous tree, I could understand why villagers might choose such a color. The tree embodied life, hundreds of years of life, perhaps even more. Its roots reached deep into the earth. Its branches stretched toward the sky. Birds lived within it. Insects lived within it. People gathered beneath it. Life surrounded it constantly. Finally, he pointed toward a strip of blue cloth, the deepest color among them, almost the same shade as the sky above us. "And blue?" The monk smiled. "Blue often reminds people of peace, stability, harmony." The word harmony immediately caught my attention, because harmony seemed to describe the village perfectly. Not perfection, not complete agreement, but balance, a relationship between people and nature, between old traditions and modern life, between the visible world and the unseen one. Blue seemed to symbolize that balance, the calm connection that allowed everything to coexist. I looked again at the three colors together: red, yellow, blue. Life, respect, harmony. The combination suddenly felt meaningful, not because someone had officially declared it so, but because the colors reflected values that were already present in the culture. Values I had been discovering since the day I arrived. For a while, we sat quietly beneath the pavilion. The sunlight shifted slowly across the temple grounds. The monk sipped his tea. I watched the colorful cloth moving gently around the tree. Then he said something unexpected. "Would you like to hear another story?" Of course I would. The best parts always began that way. Many years ago, he explained, a village not far from here faced a terrible storm. The rain lasted for days. Rivers overflowed. Fields flooded. Roads disappeared beneath water. People became frightened. The village had never seen such weather before. During the height of the storm, one enormous tree stood firm, while smaller trees fell. While branches broke, while floodwaters rushed through the area, the giant tree remained. Its roots held strong. Its trunk did not move. After the storm finally ended, villagers gathered beneath the tree. Not because the tree had performed a miracle, but because it had become a symbol, a reminder of resilience, a reminder that some things survive difficult times. To honor the moment, they wrapped colorful cloth around the trunk. Years later, people continued adding cloth. Children grew up hearing the story. Grandchildren inherited the tradition. Eventually, nobody remembered exactly who tied the first piece, but the practice remained. The tree had become part of the village identity, part of collective memory, part of the story people told about themselves. The monk smiled. That happens often. Traditions survive because stories survive. I thought about that for a long time. Traditions survive because stories survive. Perhaps that explained much of Thailand. Not only the cloth, not only the trees, but countless cultural practices. Many continued because they carried stories. Stories about values. Stories about gratitude. Stories about relationships. Stories about how people wish to live. The colorful cloth was not merely fabric. It was memory made visible. A story tied around the tree, waiting patiently for someone to ask why. Later that afternoon, I wandered through the village once more. Now that I understood the colors better, I began noticing them everywhere. Outside small shrines, near village entrances, around sacred trees, beside temples. The colors seemed woven into daily life. Not loudly, not dramatically. Simply present, like a quiet conversation continuing across generations. The giant banyan tree remained my favorite. Every time I passed it, I discovered something new. A different angle, a different shadow, a different piece of cloth fluttering in the wind. And each time, it felt less mysterious. Not because I knew all the answers, but because I had stopped looking for a single answer. Thailand had taught me something important. Many cultural traditions do not exist because of one reason. They exist because of many reasons layered together over time. Belief, memory, history, respect, community, nature, all woven together, just like the colorful cloth itself. That evening, the village glowed beneath the orange light of sunset. Children played football near the temple. Elderly neighbors chatted outside their homes. The smell of cooking drifted through the warm air. I sat beneath the banyan tree one final time before darkness arrived. The cloth moved softly around the trunk. Red, yellow, blue, life, respect, harmony. The meanings felt appropriate, not because they had been explained, but because they reflected everything I had experienced here. The tree represented life. The villagers showed respect, and together they created harmony. The formula was surprisingly simple, yet remarkably beautiful. The sky slowly darkened. Stars began appearing overhead, and the giant tree remained exactly where it had stood for generations. Silent, steady, patient. A living reminder that some lessons cannot be taught in a classroom. They must be experienced beneath the shade of an ancient tree. The breeze carried the faint scent of flowers through the night. The colorful cloth fluttered one last time. And I realized that my understanding of Thailand was changing once again. Not through famous landmarks, not through tourist attractions, but through something much quieter. A tree, a village, and 3 simple colors. Chapter 5. What the cloth really means. My final morning in the village arrived quietly, the kind of morning that seems reluctant to begin. A thin layer of mist floated above the rice fields. The mountains beyond the village appeared soft and blue beneath the early sunlight. Roosters crowed somewhere in the distance. A dog stretched lazily beneath a wooden house, and from the temple grounds, a bell rang gently through the cool morning air. For several minutes, I remained on the porch of my guest house, simply listening, simply watching. The village was waking up, slowly, patiently, without hurry. It felt very different from the cities I had known, different from London, different from New York, different from Sydney, different from almost everywhere. Life here seemed to move according to a rhythm older than schedules, older than deadlines, older than clocks. Perhaps that was one reason why the giant trees mattered so much. They belonged to that older rhythm, the rhythm of seasons, rain, sunlight, growth, time, the rhythm that existed long before roads, cars, and electricity. The rhythm that human beings once understood more clearly, and perhaps still understood in places like this. After breakfast, I decided to take one final walk through the village. I followed the familiar road toward the temple, the same road I had walked every day since arriving. The same road lined with flowering plants, small houses, and sleeping dogs. Everything felt familiar now, comfortable, almost as if the village had quietly accepted me. As I approached the temple, I saw the giant banyan tree once again, standing exactly where it always had, unmoving, patient, ancient. The colorful cloth around its trunk caught the morning light. Red, yellow, blue, and several other colors tied by different hands over different years. For a long moment, I simply stood there, looking upward. The branches spread across the sky like a green ocean. Birds moved among the leaves. A squirrel darted along one of the roots. The tree seemed completely alive, not just biologically alive, but woven into the life around it, part of the village itself, part of its identity, part of its story. And suddenly, I remembered my first reaction, the question that had started everything. Why are the trees wearing clothes? The memory made me laugh, because now the question seemed almost too simple. I found the monk sweeping leaves nearby. When he saw me, he smiled. "You are leaving today." It wasn't a question. News traveled quickly in small villages. "Yes, you learned what you wanted to know?" I looked toward the tree, then back toward him. I learned much more than I expected. The monk nodded, as if that was the answer he had hoped for. For a few moments, we watched the leaves falling gently from the branches. Then he asked something unexpected. "So, what do you think the cloth means?" I considered the question carefully. At first, I thought about the stories I had heard, the spirit stories, the stories about respect, the stories about community, the stories about protecting old trees. All of them felt true, yet none of them felt complete by themselves. The answer seemed larger, more connected. Eventually, I smiled. "I think the cloth is a reminder." The monk raised an eyebrow. "A reminder of what?" I looked toward the tree, then answered, "To remember that we are not alone." The monk smiled, a slow smile, a smile that suggested I had finally understood something important. For the rest of the morning, I walked through the village one final time, and everywhere I looked, I noticed relationships, not objects. Relationships. The rice fields and the farmers, the river and the fishermen, the temple and the villagers, the trees and the people who lived beneath them. Everything seemed connected. Modern life often teaches us to see the world as separate pieces. Human beings over here, nature over there, cities here, forests there. But many Thai traditions appeared to see things differently, not as separate, but connected. The cloth around the tree reflected that connection. It said, "We know this tree matters. We know it has sheltered us. We know it was here before us. And perhaps it will remain after we are gone." There was humility in that idea, a quiet humility, the kind that modern societies sometimes struggle to maintain. Near the edge of the village, I encountered Auntie Malie again. She was arranging flowers outside her tea shop. When she saw me, she waved. "You are leaving." "Yes." She smiled. "You found your answer?" I laughed. Everyone keeps asking me that, because everyone gave you a different answer. That was true. Every person had explained the cloth differently, and yet somehow none of them contradicted one another. Instead, they fit together, like pieces of a puzzle. Auntie Malie handed me a small cup of tea, then pointed toward a nearby tree wrapped in faded cloth. My grandmother used to say something. "What was that?" She looked toward the tree, then spoke softly. "When people stop respecting old things, they start forgetting important things." The statement settled into my mind immediately. When people stop respecting old things, they start forgetting important things. Perhaps that was exactly why the tradition survived. Not because the cloth itself was important, but because the values behind it were important. Respect, gratitude, memory, humility, connection. The cloth simply helped people remember. As the afternoon passed, clouds slowly gathered above the mountains. The air became cooler, the scent of rain returned. I spent my remaining hours sitting beneath the banyan tree, watching village life unfold around me, children walking home from school, monks crossing the temple grounds, farmers returning from the fields, birds settling into the branches overhead. Life continued exactly as it always had. The tree remained part of it, not as a decoration, not as a tourist attraction, but as a participant, a silent participant, one that had observed countless generations come and go. The realization felt strangely comforting. Human lives are short. The tree would likely outlive everyone currently living in the village, perhaps even their children and their grandchildren. The cloth represented more than respect for the tree. It represented respect for continuity, for history, for the invisible thread connecting one generation to the next. As evening approached, the first drops of rain began to fall. Soft drops, scattered drops, the kind that announced the arrival of a tropical shower. Villagers hurried home. Motorcycles disappeared from the roads. Windows closed. Lights appeared inside wooden houses. I remained beneath the temple pavilion watching the rain arrive. The giant banyan tree stood beyond the courtyard. Rainwater slid down its trunk. The colorful cloth darkened beneath the moisture. Yet somehow it appeared even more beautiful. The colors remained visible against the ancient bark, a small splash of humanity against something far older. For a moment I imagined all the people who had tied those cloths over the years. Grandparents, parents, children, monks, farmers, travelers, people whose names had long been forgotten, yet traces of their respect remained, visible, enduring, wrapped around the tree. The rain gradually became heavier. The world turned silver. Mist drifted through the temple grounds, and I found myself thinking about my first impression of Thailand. Before arriving, I had expected beaches, food, temples, beautiful scenery, and I found all of those things. But I had also found something else, a way of looking at the world, a perspective I had not expected, a perspective that recognized relationships rather than ownership, gratitude rather than entitlement, respect rather than domination. The cloth around the trees was only one example, but it revealed something larger, something deeper, a cultural habit of acknowledging the value of things that cannot speak for themselves. Trees, rivers, forests, places, memories. The cloth gave those things visibility, a voice without words. Eventually the rain softened. The evening sky darkened. The village lights glowed warmly through the mist. It was time for me to leave. I stood one final time beneath the giant banyan tree. The colorful cloth moved gently in the night breeze, almost as if waving goodbye. I placed my hand against the rough bark, and for a moment I thought about all the answers I had received. The monk's answer, Auntie Malie's answer, Narin's answer, the farmer's answer, the elderly man's answer, all different, all true, and together they formed a single lesson. The cloth was never really about the cloth. It was about remembering gratitude, remembering humility, remembering that nature is not merely scenery, remembering that old things carry stories, remembering that some things deserve protection simply because they have quietly cared for us for generations. The tree stood silently beneath the stars. The cloth fluttered softly, and at last I understood. Before coming to Thailand, I thought people wrapped cloth around trees because of superstition. Now I realize something very different. People wrapped cloth around trees because of respect. And perhaps respect is one of the most beautiful traditions any culture can preserve. The rain faded into the distance. The village grew quiet. The giant tree remained, watching, waiting, remembering, just as it had for centuries. And as I walked away beneath the warm tropical night, I carried with me one final thought. Perhaps the real mystery was never why Thai people tied colorful cloth around old trees. Perhaps the real mystery was why so many of us had forgotten how to show gratitude to the living world around us. The colorful cloth moved one final time in the darkness, a silent message beneath ancient branches, a message about memory, a message about respect, a message about belonging. And somewhere beneath the gentle sound of rain and rustling leaves, It felt as though the old tree was still telling its story, patiently, quietly. To anyone willing to stop and listen, good night. Thailand still holds countless stories waiting to be discovered. If you would like to continue this journey together, I hope to see you again in the next story from Thailand Through Eyes. And if there is somewhere in Thailand you wish to visit through story, leave your suggestion below. Perhaps our next journey will begin there. Thank you.